I think we should get started then. So great. So thank you for coming again, Mr. Phelan. And first of all, when the name of this podcast is series is called our Diverse Dollars Summer Series, Summer Insight Series. And the purpose of this is to keep our club engaged throughout the summer. And it allows them to stay in touch and learn about different experiences and uh, professional people in the world of personal finance. But to give you an overview of our club is called Diverse Dollars, and we're located at Montgomery Blair High School in Silver Spring, Maryland. And we offer like engaging workshops, seminars that are interactive and hands-on activities. And we do essential topics such as budgeting, saving, understanding credit. One of the fun things we did with savings was we created vision boards for students, so it was great to have
Mhm.
that there. And also I mentioned maybe at the summit, how we had like one of the very like the fun topics that we had was like student businesses, like they presented, so it was great to have them there, and it keeps our club designed so it's relatable to our generation and like students in our community, and so that students are not just only learning personal finance but also like feeling confident to apply it to real life situations that they may learn or continue. So then again, this is why we try to do the summer insight series.
Yeah,
But now let's introduce you and get started with the interview. So good morning, Mr. Phelan, and thank you for joining us again. And first, let's start with you. So may you introduce yourself?
sure. And you are more than welcome to call me Rob.
Mhm.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rob Phelan. Online, I'm also known as the FiEducator. So if you're in a personal finance class, you may have seen some FiEducator resources popping up. Those are the things that I create as my side hustle to my teaching business. And it's great to hear that you guys have been exploring that too. And kudos to the two guys here for putting this on over the summer. And then also to all of you who've managed to watch some of this over the summer. It takes a lot of dedication and self-discipline to kind of keep learning even when someone's not at the front of the room telling you need to do it. So love seeing that. I've been a high school teacher now for I think 11 years. I'm losing count at this point. That's how long it's been. And I didn't know much about money when I started. I initially wanted to be a phys ed teacher. So I went to college for phys ed. They said, well, you have to take a second subject because phys ed is not the most employable of subjects that you can teach. Teachers don't tend to leave those positions very much. So I ended up with math as a second subject, which I wasn't really much of a math fan when I was in high school, but it didn't involve a ton of grading essays. So I was like, yeah, this is for me.
Mhm.
Terrible reason to get into teaching, but it was the right choice in the end. And
Mhm.
about 4 years into my career, this position came up in my school called contemporary math, where you're teaching math that has real life applications through money and finance. And I didn't really have much of a choice. It was kind of like, hey, this guy's leaving. You're going to have that class. Cool. And I was like, yep, great. I'll go learn about money now. So I
Mhm.
spent an entire summer diving into finances, started with Dave Ramsey, who is probably when you search up like how do I do better with money, he's one of the top hits that you'll get, very big business, does a lot of work in trying to capture that first group of people who start thinking about money. And he's really good for if you're in debt or you have lost control of your finances, he's the one to start with for getting control back. So if
Mhm.
you know anyone that is not really doing great with their money and they're just looking for help with getting started, that's where I would recommend you go. For you
Mhm.
guys who are building from the ground up, you probably don't need Dave. You can probably skip him and move straight onto the good stuff.
Mhm.
And that's financial independence. That's what I found next. I was like, this is exactly what I'm looking for. Like I can not only just control and manage my money, but I can build wealth and I can build this money making machine that's going to allow me to retire early and never really have to worry about money again. And that's what excites me a lot. And it's what keeps me doing what I'm doing. I love sharing that with students. I love creating more income for myself. I'm more on the like create more income than reduce my expenses side
Mhm.
because your income has no ceiling. You can go as high as you want.
Mhm. Great, great. So thank you very much for sharing that. Secondly, Nicola, who co-runs the club, like I mentioned, and he will be my co-host. Nicola, may you introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Nicola. We're both seniors at Blair. We've been running this club for This is our second year officially, and we're just trying to expand it, and we're gonna try teaching new generation to try and take over the club so they
Mhm.
can run it too.
Definitely, definitely, right. Thank you for everyone introducing themselves. Let's dive into uh your background and motivation. So you shared that this position that came like to you, and you obviously went on to becoming a personal finance teacher at your school. So with like staying on like the subject of personal finance, what initially like made you choose the career? Although it was given to you, like was there a defining moment was like where you were like, I really like this a lot? And not just it was I was made to.
Mm. So in high school, when I was trying to decide what career I wanted, I was very torn between three different things. I had a scholarship to go to England to study architecture,
Mhm,
a full ride to go to Mercyhurst in Pennsylvania to study sports medicine. And
mhm,
then I was in Ireland at the time, so that's where my family is from. I was going to high school there, and college is essentially free there. You just pay for your room and board. The college part itself is very cheap. So I had education there, so physical education with mathematics as my major, and was really struggling to pick.
mhm,
There was three reasons I chose teaching, and it was June, July, August,
mhm,
and that was the worst reason ever to go into teaching. But I had been coaching in soccer camps for years as a high schooler. I'd volunteered at different positions. I had a lot of family members who were teachers. So I figured at the worst case scenario, it was a great working day. So in terms of the hours and lifestyle, and then you had summers off, plus, the winter and spring. And I was like, that to me sounds more important than a high salary.
mhm,
And it was a little naive at the time because as I'm an adult now and I'm looking back, I'm like, there's so many other careers out there that I never even heard of or explored. And I chose something that ended up being a good decision for me. It's a career I like. I wouldn't call it like a calling or this like higher power telling me that this is where I need to be and I should be sacrificing my happiness and livelihood and everything just to serve people.
mhm,
For me, it's a job that has the trade-off of I give my expertise and in return I get paid for it. And I do enjoy the lifestyle that comes with the hours. So it ended up being a great position for me. Personal finance came a couple years, as I said, down the road, and I was a little skeptical at first. I was like, I don't know anything about money. I was not brought up in a household that really talked about it. Um, I would say like firmly in that sort of middle class area where money wasn't a big issue in our household, so it didn't come up in a negative way, but also wasn't abundant that it was very apparent that we were rolling in money. So I remember in the 2008, 2000 or 07, 08, 09 recession, my dad lost his job in construction. And that was a very big eye opener as to like how tight money can get when your job disappears, you don't have the big emergency fund. Parents never talked about it, but we were aware of it, we could feel it.
mhm,
And so when this opportunity came to start learning about money, it started bringing those feelings back up again. I was like, okay, this is a way to prevent that from happening again.
mhm,
So I can build my emergency fund. I can create multiple streams of income so that if somehow I got fired from a teaching job, which by the way is a very hard job to get fired from,
mhm,
if I somehow got fired from this job, there will be other streams of income ready to go. And
mhm,
that's a very secure feeling to have. So like, I lose my job as a teacher
mhm.
tomorrow and like, they're like, sorry, we're not bringing you back this year. I would still have a couple thousand coming in from different sources. So my family would not go hungry. We would be able to pay our mortgage, put on the electricity, get food, and give myself time to find the next thing that I'm going to do.
Definitely,
And
right, right.
I love sharing that with students. I love
Yeah.
showing the possibility that comes from not just managing, but
Mhm,
building wealth and achieving financial independence, which, as you guys know, like you start at a young age, you
mhm,
don't have to do this for very long and you're already set for life. It's great.
mhm. Definitely, definitely. Thank you for sharing that. That's a really unique experience. Um, and it's really interesting because I believe you mentioned it at your presentation that I went to at the Educator Summit, and how you used your time properly. And also, I think it's a great way you can save your time um, in occupation like a teacher, because you mentioned you get July, August, and June, July, August, and then as well as it's great hours. So that's really nice for you mentioning that. And I also remember a really key detail. You said people can retire after 40, possibly. or before
Mhm.
40, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, and
And that's like me starting my 20s. Like you guys start now. I mean, I know guys who are 28, 29, they're already retired.
yeah.
Like they're they're done. They did it. They invested a lot of money at your age where like you've got a part-time job, you might be bringing in $500 or $600 a month. You
Mhm,
don't really have any core needs. You can still go, out for a bit of fun. You can spend a little bit on clothes, food, whatever you want. But if you squirrel away the
mhm,
majority of that and you invest it and you do like your index funds or even play with individual stock if that's your thing, but you
mhm,
can certainly set yourself up on a pathway to have high wealth at a very young age.
definitely.
Like my son is going to be turning 5 next week,
Mhm,
and he already has a IRA set up. He dog sat for our neighbors once. They paid him 20
mhm.
bucks. I immediately tossed it in his IRA. I gave him 20 bucks. I put 20 into the IRA because you can match whatever you make in your IRA. So
Right,
like
right.
that's just going to sit there invested. He's got a brokerage account from when COVID happened and the government started sending out stimulus checks.
Mhm,
We took his stimulus check. We were in the fortunate position of saying, like, you know what? We don't need it. Let's just stick it away for him. So,
right.
like, he's got a brokerage account that's just rolling around in the background. And, like, you can imagine, like, we're going to leave that there for 18, 20 years. And
Mhm.
when he's in his mid 20s, he wants to buy that first investment property or he
Yeah,
wants to, go travel the world. Like, I don't care what he does with the money. He can use it for building wealth. He can use it for having fun. He can use it for buying that first property, whatever it is. But he's going to have the luxury of having wealth already started. That snowball's already rolling.
yeah, that's great to hear. Really. And now I'm just gonna hand it off to Nicola, who's
Yeah.
taking.
All right, so building on your innovative use for social media for financial literacy, we'd
Mhm.
love to explore how you balance impactful roles as both an educator and a social media influencer. So your Instagram account, FiEducator, has
Yep.
caught our attention for its engaging and informative content that's just aiming for like educating young people about personal finance. And so the importance of reaching audiences where they spend their time, your approach is really timely and essential. Also, your really cool podcast, the Personal Finance Classroom, that everyone should check out, where he interviews all kinds of professionals on topics and of personal finance. And we're just curious, like as a teacher, how do you figure out how to find the time to create lesson plans, but also maintain an active social media initiative?
And that's a good question. It's about the balance of time and where you prioritize your time. And this was something I talked about in the presentation that Asa was mentioning at the conference, where wealth is measured in a lot of different ways. You have wealth with money, you have wealth with time, you have wealth in your relationships,
Mhm,
wealth in your health. And for me, all of those are equally important. Like it's not just about money. And so like I wouldn't say that I am rich if you were to ask. Like I would say like I make enough to get by, to invest, to do the things that we want to do, but I don't chase more than that because it would mean sacrificing my time to do so.
mhm,
I have a young 5-year-old or almost 5-year-old. I'm married, and I have to find the balance between my job as a teacher, my family. I'm an avid soccer fan and soccer player, so I love finding time to create space for that.
mhm,
And then I also have my own business, which is something that also demands a little bit of time, but very intentional with how I do it. So the business I created, FiEducator, is creating digital resources where they're bought on demand. So if you create a digital resource, someone buys it, you
mhm,
don't have to do anything on your end. The platform, in my case, Teachers Pay Teachers or Etsy, just sends them the resource automatically. So once it's made, you front load the work in making it. You can do it on your own time. There's no clock in, clock out. There's nobody waiting at the door for an order. It's just you make it, you post it, people buy it, and it just runs in the background after that. So I picked a business very intentionally that allowed me to work on it when I had time. So this summer, I didn't spend a lot of time on it. I was very involved with family, very involved with some health stuff that was going on in our family. And it was very easy just to be like, turn that off, focus on what's important right now versus like you create a job, like say podcasting. If you commit to, we're going to release a new episode every week, um, you suddenly have created a job for yourself where like you're like, oh, like we got to record, we got to edit, we got to post. And now there's this feeling of I can't stop because I've started something that has an obligation to it. So for you high schoolers, you're busy. You got a lot of things going on. When you are starting small businesses or side hustles, choose something that fits the life that you want and the life that you have already.
mhm,
So social media was more important to me. So you referenced my Instagram. Like I've had maybe 4 or 5 different Instagrams, like channels over the years. When I was releasing my children's books, I published a children's book about money, very heavy on Instagram. Like every day I had a post scheduled to go out. Now with this teachers pay teachers thing being my main thing, Instagram is not that important to me. My audience, my target market actually exists more on Facebook than it does on Instagram. And they're not buying based off some quirky video reel thing that I post. They're buying off of like, is this resource going to save them time? Is it going to bring them value? That sort of thing. So I'm very much intentionally looking for teacher Facebook groups that are for personal finance teachers, business teachers, marketing, accounting. And I will make posts in there like maybe once a week or so, just kind of being like, hey, I made this resource. It does XYZ for me. It took me 20 hours to make times $30 an hour, which would be like an average, pay that you could consider for a teacher. So that's $600. I'm selling it to you for $6. And it should be like a slam dunk in value for them. And that's where my sales come from. So I post on Instagram. It's a rare thing these days. It's kind of like if something floats into my head or I just happen to take a picture or video and it's easy just to convert and put onto Instagram, I'll do it. But right now, maintaining a social media presence is not super important to me. And my target market is no longer teens like you guys, really. It's the teachers. So when I create the videos that Nicola was talking about, these are guest speakers that I use in my classroom. So I have people come in, they talk about a specific topic, and I show it in my classroom. We usually do it live, so my students can ask questions, and I also broadcast across the country for other students and classrooms to join in on. And then the replay, again, exists forever on YouTube. So it's, again, another thing that I can create that overlaps with my time in a classroom. So it's nothing new. We just do a live recording. We don't edit it. So again, no extra time spent editing. And it's something that provides value to people, and I can give it away for free because it's YouTube. It's great.
Right, right.
Thank you for sharing. We were planning something similar with diverse dollars. We were trying to figure out and plan out a kind of packet, we sort of say, for like kids in elementary school, like some basics, fundamentals, like games they can play, resources they can like consider and watch. And we were planning on doing something similar to that. But yeah, so now let's delve deeper into the educational aspect of that. Teaching personal finance in schools is a crucial step towards empowering the next generation with the skills that they need to manage their finances effectively. And so there are hundreds of personal finance teachers in the state of Maryland, and someone who has written books such as M is for Money and has a social media presence for himself. You see it all. So we wanted to ask you, based on your experience, what are some ways that teachers can like fuel their students to learn and focus on their current and future financial goals? And what would you say is the most effective method for teaching FinLit and trying to integrate it into, let's say, like MCPS, for example?
So a couple of things on that. So when you teach anything, and you guys can probably think to your favorite teacher or your favorite class, you can make any class as exciting or as boring as you want it to be. And personal finance can be a very boring subject if you just follow a textbook or you follow like a very dry curriculum. If you're not into it, if you don't understand it a lot yourself, it can be really hard to teach. So for me, 3 words are my kind of motto, mantra, law that I live by when I teach. It's exciting, engaging, and educational. So every resource I create should hit those 3 E's. If it doesn't, it's not good enough for my classroom, because I want something that is going to get students excited about personal finance and money. I want to engage them, and I don't want them just sitting there listening to me. It's great. I got good stories. I'm a decent storyteller / speaker, but 90 days of listening to me talk to you about how important money is not going to make much of an impact. And then educational, whatever we do should have a purpose. Like we play a lot of Monopoly in my class, but it's never just pull out the game and play. There's always some adjustment to the rules, some overarching goal or theme that we're trying to hit on, that when the students are done, they're like, oh, like that's how that works. So like we have an insurance monopoly, we have different ones for investing, we have different ones for learning about blockchain technology, and we'll play with these different rules that help explain a concept. And at the end, the student's like, I just learned something and I was really excited about it. And that doesn't normally happen for me in school, which is really great, because I typically get students who sign up for my class. It's a senior math class, technically. So it's a math credit and a FinLit credit. And a lot of my students are ones who are like, well, I didn't want to do calculus or stats, so I'm going to take your class as that 4th year of math to get the Maryland graduation requirement. And what we're trying to build now is this culture of, well, no, like don't treat it like this kind of like castaway class, treat it as the one that you really want to sign up for. And that sort of success and culture will breed more of that. So you guys are trying to create the same thing with your club. You're trying to create a culture that will outlive you guys. And that's something that is hard to do. But if you keep inspiring that next crew coming along and you leave them the tools to make it fun and exciting and engaging, you're going to find that this thing will just keep going and living on.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That reminds me of my business teacher. He kind of like he would play games like board games in his class, but he'd also like have an over like throughout the whole class we had a big project which was like planning our own business, like possible business,
Yep.
and the steps we would take, the finances behind it, and really just trying to engage us with it like firsthand. And yeah, thank you for sharing. Passing back to Sarah.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. That's great to hear. And I think also Mr. Phelan has a book called 102 Ways to Starting a Business, I believe.
Oh, that's what we call a lead magnet. So
Okay.
are you guys familiar with the term?
No, no, I've never heard of it.
So if you have a business and you want to generate social media followers or more likely email subscribers,
Mm-hmm.
a lead magnet is something you give away for free in
Mm-hmm.
exchange for an email.
Oh.
So, you'll see it sometimes on social media, like, hey, like leave your email and we'll send you this, or comment this and we'll send you back the thing. Like they're looking for engagement. They're looking for something. They're generating a lead of some sort. So 102 business ideas for teens is a lead magnet for an older business of mine called A Simple Startup. And this was a online course where I taught 10 to 18-year-olds how to start their own businesses. So I had like an online course where I walked them through all the steps, and it has a workbook that I published that goes with it. So that's what that was. It was to get people just like, oh, I want to see what your business ideas are. Like, here's a list of 102. I'll give you my email in exchange for that. Sure. And then it triggered an email sequence where I would tell them about my course and my book. And hey, you want help, you want guidance, you feel like you're stuck and you don't know what to do next, my course is for you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what that is. And something that is a great business idea as you guys move forward.
Yeah.
Because social media, awesome, but you're always at the whims of Facebook or Instagram or WhatsApp or Snapchat as to like whether your message reaches the person you intended it to.
Mm-hmm.
Versus an email. If you have an email list, you can basically guarantee that your email is going to make it to their inbox. Now, they may not open it. You still have to craft a good email, but it's a more guaranteed way of owning your audience and making sure that people are getting the message that you're sending.
That's so true because I think I just saw an email that you released maybe last week at the start. You may have mentioned like, oh, school is starting, I believe. You
Mm-hmm.
sent an email last week, right? I
Yep.
didn't necessarily get to touch, I didn't get to click on it yet, but I saw the header, the subject line, and definitely that caught my eye. And I'll definitely check that out when I after this interview. So now let's speak about like advocacy and efforts being made to establish personal finance on the state level for
Mm-hmm.
Maryland. So, Mr. Phelan, if correct me if I'm wrong, but your county implemented a personal finance graduation requirement since the year 2021 to 2022 school year, right?
Yes, but with a really big asterisk after it.
Okay.
So if you were to go to Next Gen Personal Finance, which is one of the standard hubs to go to learn about money,
Uh-huh.
they have a thing called Mission 2030 where they are scoring states based on their graduation requirements for personal finance.
Mhm.
Maryland is currently ranked as a silver state,
Yeah.
and FCPS is the exact same. So what that means is there is some sort of personal finance requirement to graduate, but
Mhm.
it's not a standalone class of financial literacy. So
Okay.
in Frederick County and in Maryland, the graduation requirement is that you take at least a half credit of personal finance to graduate, and that can be embedded in a whole variety of courses. So like it can be
Math.
in your Microsoft certification, your business classes, it can be in contemporary math,
Mhm.
economics, family consumer science. I
Mhm.
think even early childhood development
Oh.
has that included in there because there's like a small business aspect to it.
Mhm.
And like it could just be doing budget challenge. Like it's something that is very inconsistent in terms of the standard that's being hit. So it's great in theory, and a lot of politicians will tout that and say, well, we got a standard, like everyone's got to do something, and it's not enough yet. So Maryland needs to go that step further, follow Montgomery County, and say like, hey, we're just going to mandate it ourselves and say like 1 semester personal finance and you need it to graduate.
Definitely, I agree with you. Me and Nicola actually took government together, and before talks were about requirements of personal finance, they implemented it in government classes. So it was a 2-week course towards the end of the year, and it was on a platform called EverFi. You may have heard of it, and
Yes.
so that's like one of the reasons why we started this club. It was just a grade. It was all task grade, so students were definitely gonna get on it, but we weren't learning the skills. We were just trying to get it done with
Yeah.
simply. Um, and as of March 2024, the Montgomery County Board of Education postponed its vote on a financial literacy graduation requirement, and they they postponed it to January of 2025. So to ask you about it, like how effective have like your classes been since students are like graduating with a important life skill in their back pocket? And you mentioned that it's kind of like not on the best standard it can be, but has there like been any data that they provided, or just something like have like, is there a specific story that you've like seen in your class that definitely like tailors to how this graduation requirement has helped the student?
So short answer, no.
Mhm,
So like if you think about how you would measure the effectiveness of any class, you have to think about, well, what is it that we're trying to measure and how do we measure it? So a personal finance class, I would say a class would be successful if students did not take on excessive amounts of debt, if they built wealth, say like they became financially independent. Like how many of my students will become financially independent by 40? That would be a really cool metric to have.
mhm,
I've only been teaching personal finance for 5 or 6 years, so they're not quite there yet. Most of my first group are like just out of college. They might still be in their master's program,
mhm,
if they're in college. And so it's hard to know. And it's not something that schools necessarily do. We don't really track our students after they graduate. I ask my students, I say all of them like, hey, reach out to me every year. I want an update. How are you doing? What are you doing? How are things going? And some do. And I have gotten stories back of students who are like, hey, ever since my class, I've been investing in my IRA. It's up to like 10 grand and I'm only 23,
mhm,
or I'm getting ready to buy my first property. But those are still like, fewer, and I don't really hear much about them. So it's like, it's hard to know. But and it kind of goes back to what Nicholas said earlier, like about having an effective class. For me, it's not about financial literacy. Like we could give a financial literacy test and you'll see mixed scores come in terms of like the vocabulary and how well students know, like low level know the stuff.
mhm,
But for me, it's about the behavior, the psychology, the understanding from that comes behind the financial literacy. And that's what my class is mostly about. So I want them making better quality decisions. I want them feeling comfortable having conversations with friends, family, people that they meet, professionals, if they don't understand something or they want to figure something out. And then also feeling equipped to go find good information if they need to. So say like you want to buy a car,
mhm,
rather than going to the first dealership and just feeling pressured to take whatever the first deal was thrown at you. You're like, I'm going to do my research beforehand. I'm going to look up comparable rates.
mhm,
I'm going to go in with my loan already secured from my credit union because I don't want to deal with dealership financing. I've asked 3 friends who just bought a car recently what they did, what their experience was like. And that person will make way better decisions than the one who is not equipped. And it's hard to measure that. So yes and no. Do I think it's effective? Yes. Do my students at the end of every year tell me that they enjoyed the class, that they learned a lot, that they feel more equipped to handle their finances? Yes, but seeing it play out is a very long-term gain or game, and I haven't gotten to play that game yet, which is unfortunate. I need to be like in a doctorate program where I can follow people for like 20 years.
definitely you should. Um, but like the very last question I'll ask you for this interview is, moving forward, those teachers, like there's so much counties and states Mr. Sheik's also mentioned, like there's only like 23 states, I believe, that have passed a financial literacy course, and also what you mentioned, standards like silver, gold,
Mhm.
maybe bronze. What advice would you give to fellow teachers who are trying to work and make personal finance included in like their courses, whether it be math classes, finance classes, um, just skills classes? How, like, even it might even be English class, we don't know, or government class, and those who are really striving for students to put this skill behind in their back pocket, what advice would you give them to push push forward?
I mean, a couple different levels. First thing, we have a major election coming up this year. So this is a
Mhm,
great year to try and take a stand in terms of influencing what's going on in your government and your local politics.
mhm,
So if you have a group of students and teachers who are into this, like say your group, find out who your local politician is in Congress and Senate, state representative, that sort of thing. Send them an email, send them a letter, be like, hey, this is really important to me. I'm turning 18 this year, hopefully before November 12th, and I'm eligible to vote. And this is something that'll be really important to me in terms of who I'd vote for and my family and my school district, my community, that sort of thing.
mhm,
So let politicians know this is important to you. And just letting them know will sometimes move that higher up in their priority list of, okay, like I should probably make this happen if I want to win those people's votes.
mhm,
Um, on a small micro scale, like whatever teacher you are, there are tons of free resources out there from Next Gen Personal Finance, from EverFi, from a lot of different sources. Look and see what you could incorporate into your own classroom. Like most classes, you can find a real life example that's somehow tied to money. Like even an English class, like can you make one of the books you study about money? If you're doing film study, can you do something that has a financial theme running through it so that you can bring that into the conversation as well?
mhm,
Um, and collaborate with your finance teacher in your school and say like, hey, is there anything that we can do together? Are there group projects we can do? Can we, take on half of a project and you guys are doing the other half, and then all our students are benefiting from this? Um, organize a business fair in
yeah,
your school. So like I do a business fair in my school and I get,
yeah,
80 something students to start a business every semester and showcase
that's
it at the end. You can do
yeah,
that in a club, you can do that in a class. Up to you.
that's great. That's great to definitely hear. Yeah, we definitely want to implement something, maybe like a financial literacy week towards the beginning of the school year, and display some great things. But thank you very much for sharing like your
Mhm.
experience with us. We're kind of limited on time since we don't have the Zoom subscription, but definitely like you shared a lot of your experience and skills, and it definitely like keeps us motivated to find that financial freedom within ourselves. Nicola, would you like to say anything before we close out?
Yeah, thank you for being here.
Of course.
Yeah.
Great, great. And also before we get head off, you said you're a soccer fan, so what teams are you supporting, Mr. Phelan?
Well, we got the US women playing in the gold medal match today, so make sure you
Mhm,
check that one out. That's actually
mhm.
starting in like 20 minutes, I think.
Yeah.
Um, and then I'm an English Premier League fan, so I
Oh,
will I will watch the English League all year, and my
what
son
team?
will sit there and watch me.
What team?
I'm a Man United fan, and my son cheers
Oh,
for whoever is playing against them.
definitely. I like Kobe. I like Kobe Manu. He's really nice.
He's a quality little player. Yeah,
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully, Mr. Phelan, I can catch you at some MCE meetings in the future.
hope
Um,
so.
yeah, they're a bit far away from me, but hopefully I'll see you at some meetings for sure.
Yep, keep staying involved. Keep
Definitely.
pushing that out, even if it's at your school or something bigger.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much, Mr. Phelan. Have a good
Thank
one.
you. Thank you very much, guys.
Indeed.
Thank you all who are watching too.
Great.
Bye.
Bye.